I believe that every spoken word or thought form, like all thought forms, are mantras by certain understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. And they come out as sound. And a mantra is more a properly structured sound to build into it or to call to it devas of a certain quality that will build the thought construct of that mantra so it's produce a specific effect, whatever the purpose of the mantra is. It can be uplifting, enlightening, or it can be projected downwards for creative purposes. But on the whole, all thoughts are mantras, but they're unconscious mantras. You can think of sensual thoughts or desire thoughts or thoughts for food. Your stomach is growling, you think of eating something, and then your mind will go through some sort of sequence normally of what it is to make the cook or what it is that you're going to feed yourself with. And that's a mantra. And then you go and do that things. And it's not just with food, it can be with virtually everything else. So thought precedes the action. It's thought, word, and deed. That's the way it manifests.
So you could have the exact same action or mental concept, but two different intentions. So is the intention somehow woven into the thought form?
It can be, but see, there are some brooding thoughts. For instance, selfish or sensual thoughts, they can just brood around the individual and not go much further. The intention is when the thoughts are directed to the object of the thought, the object of desire, and then the hooks will go out or the thought will be projected there. Once a thought is projected outside your thought environment, then it's karma producing. Then it produces an effect in the psychic realm or to stimulate somebody's emotions or desires or whatever, or to create something on the physical. For instance, all of us have been in love, so to speak. We've all had desirous thought forms. And when you generate those desirous thought forms and you project it to the image of the one you love or whatever, then you're stimulating them. You're stimulating their desire body. They can either accept the thought if they're also thinking of you, what lovers do, or if they dislike you, it will be rejected and rebound off the aura of that individual and sent back, often with double energy, to the one who projected it. But those individuals that received that thought projection or that desire projection normally gets an image of the person that sends it. People are doing this type of thought projection and receiving impressions unconsciously and not knowing exactly what is happening. So what you are doing as meditators and as disciples, as bodhisattvas, is to make sure that you do not project thoughts outside of your thought environment and direct it to others, except if they are of beneficial, helpful, uplifting nature, inspirational. Because if you do the other, where you're projecting a selfish or sensual or manipulative thought, that's dark brotherhood. That's what they do. And they're experts in projecting those types of manipulative, projective, penetrative thoughts. They do that all the time. Anubis are specialists at that, but all the dark brotherhood, the witches, etc., they also have their power to project their thoughts. And it's not just direct thought, but then it'll often be built in the form of a spider, for instance. I've mentioned, for instance, that spiders and witches go together. The spiders are the thought emanations of the witches. The witches don't have to be there sort of clubbing you on the head or whatever. They send these spiders, but the spiders are thoughts, and there can be a whole series of them. If you're out there in the astral plane of some of these DBR and you are being attacked by them, then you would feel the mantra. For instance, there's a rasping sound, right? You can think of a mantra of a rasping sound. That would be like throwing at you lots and lots of pins and needles or razor blades, and they will hit your aura in the form of lots of pins and needles or being cut by a razor. Here's an explosive one at the bottom. So those types of projectiles are mantras, are rasping sound mantras. And your consciousness, because you're in a physical body and you're not really so clairvoyant, it all comes down in a dullish form. But if you're directly in your astral body, and you can be, for instance, through the taking of drugs, or you may remember experiencing just before you go into the body lots of fear projections. Some people go into the body with, riddled with fear because they've been projected this type of energy. So the mantric sound is dulled by your physical senses, but it would be far more powerful and far more fearful if you are out there battling them, as I said, in your astral body. So if you can think of the witches specifically, their types of spells, they're all thought projections and projectiles or entities. They have different ways of growing the entities inside your consciousness, which most of you are aware of. They can put rods of power in, but there's all sorts of other things like, spider webs and whatever, or external to you. So there's the witches of your level, but then there's the cosmic entities too, and those that come and the marching hordes of orc-like entities. They are thought forms of great cosmic black magicians. It's a little bit difficult to properly fully explain all of this because there is a process of evolution. So there's involution and then there's evolution. So involution is when beings and the universe is coming into manifestation, and then evolution is when they're evolving out and becoming enlightened. This involutionary stage, it happens on the higher planes from Adi, sort of Anapadaka, Atma, and so forth. So you get this monadic life that's coming into manifestation, and the dark forces will often embody or utilize these involutionary entities to do their bidding. And then they come in certain forms. What's built around such an entity is a thought construct of the qualification, or energy qualification that they embody in terms of an entity such as the scorpion, which most closely resembles that which they are, or the energies that they manifest. It's all, one way or the other, a thought construct. As I said, the whole universe is a thought construct. The planetary system, it's all thought constructs. And what you're learning as meditators is to build thought constructs. Everything that hierarchy sends into you, for instance, your dream imagery, I'm spending a lot of my time explaining to people their dreams or their meditation images. And the reason why I can do this, because I understand the thought constructs that build these images, or the symbolism behind the thought constructs, because it's a language that hierarchy uses, but I also understand the DB thought constructs. So there's those two different languages that manifest in the form of symbolism, and then the symbolism is extended in terms of religious symbolism as well. Then you can, looking at the thought constructs, understand why Ra or Horus has a eagle head in Egyptian mythology, or the jackal, for instance, with the Anubis. There's a universal symbolism associated with all of this. It's all got to do with the laws of mind, the thought constructs, the types of energies that are built into that. So the Dark Brotherhood have their forms of thought constructs, and the White Brotherhood give you that in terms of the symbolism that they give you in meditation and in your dreams. Yes.
So I'm just wondering then, when somebody from the Dark Brotherhood is, waving the flag, and then they change into the human form. Is that like the equivalent of our passing our death when we're unraveling and taking off really all the thought constructs layer by layer? Do they go through something like that, or is that different for them?
No, when they wave the white flag, they end up into what they really are. They've given up. They've given up their games. They've given up building the image. They're no longer, for instance, the Scorpio Emperor is no longer building the thought construct around him of being a scorpionic being with all the powers of the scorpion, or to produce fear into you as such. And therefore, all of that image making of that black magician falls away, and you get the reality of a form, if you want the human form. That is, when you saw that field of the converted DB, they're all human. They're no longer in terms of shapes of octopuses and witches and all of the black thought constructs around them. That's all gone. They are what they are. And then the divas come and hierarchy comes to educate them. There's a lot of massive amount of healing to be done in their psyches. You can imagine the amount of work. But for all of those workers, it's great joy to bring them back into the path of light. Okay, so that's that question, I suppose. It's a wonderful world that you actually live in, isn't it? That when you begin to think that these forms that we inhabit are not real, but what is the real is the thought construct, is the power of thought, and that's what you are. You're becoming, a white magician, or you're learning those arts, and what opposes you are black magicians that are pretty aware, fully aware of their arts. Although there's levels of the black magician, as you know, from the coven, sex coven to the beginners, from the beginners to the sex coven upwards to sorcerers, and then the high entities. But we are really just dealing with light and thought constructs associated with light, and then they build that's automatic. They don't really have to think much about it because it's the way the energy manifests. The octopus often is a converted diva that the dark would have captured and converted the diva into an octopus shape. So the energy field of that was formerly the diva, which is very free and beautiful colorings and radiating out and all these lines of energy, suddenly is formed, constricted, and the energy is the arms of the octopus. So that debasing energy field, or the concretized energy field, coarsened and deadened and leadened, is gradually cleansed of the heavy constricting vibrations, and then the radiance starts to come out again, and the being that was imprisoned by those thought constructs suddenly becomes what it really is. And you can see the transformation, and it's quite brilliant. I've seen, and some of you may have seen, the diva that was once a witch or something like that, in a really sort of ugly, sort of convoluted form. And then after it's gone through the healing process, come back to you in this radiant, joyous, diva form.
In regards to the duality that we experience in human form of male, female, must mean that there's fundamental differences in thought forms. Like, well, the whole marriage of a man and a woman was to help complete each other's understanding, or to see how they solve the problems of existence from a different angle. So do thought forms really eat each other? Is that the whole theory behind the man-woman dynamic? Was that the whole purpose of it?
We're getting into the philosophy of father, son, mother, or father, mother, son. And sometimes you've got the phrase "Father, Mother" or dash between them. And then there's a thing called the divine hermaphrodite. Yes, but the fourth construct is there because it follows a patterning within the universe where you've got the Ida, the female, the Bengala, the masculine, and the Shumna, the union between the two. So the general patterning of the Trinity, which is but one, is what's hidden there. And this dualism is needed for the evolutionary process, for the appropriate testings, for the resolution of male and female principles. And the fourth construct is also in nature between the human kingdom, which is inherently masculine, and the Deva kingdom, which is inherently female. And by female is implied the intelligence principle, the intelligence that creates phenomena, that disselects and makes all of the diversity in nature, and then the human principle, or the masculine, if you want, that harmonizes all that into a unity, into a oneness. Of course, human beings right now are quite destructive, but their souls are a different thing. And so we're looking at the souls. That interrelationship in nature, the male and female, is then resolved into a unity in the kingdom of Shambhala, then manifests the Sushumna nature and force. So this triplicity or inherent triplicity, or the 3 in 1, is everywhere manifest wherever there's form. And then that's also symbolized in the Seal of Solomon, the hexagon, where you get the triangle pointing upwards, interwoven with the triangle pointing downwards, and that interwoven triangles produces the fourth, the transient appearance of things, the fourth principle, which is seen as a square. And in my book, Divine Causation, I have a chapter on that, but I've elaborated all that in my esoteric cosmology book. So there's a whole chapter on the energy view and then the geometry view. So if you go into the chapter on the geometrical view, then all of this is elaborated, and then what you've pointed, male, female. And you can see the necessity for male-female interrelationship or polarity on the physical plane because of all the testings that everyone has when they interrelate with what's called the opposite sex. In order to normally, the objective is to produce the child and to raise the child to make that child grow into some useful member of the human kingdom. There's a certain period of helping the child to grow, responsibility, and then the child's on its own. So those testings are all inherent within nature, but there's also the cosmic marriages as well. We are too still blind, and I suppose I was going to say the word too dumb, so in inverted commas, to understand the logoic interrelationships. What's the pole opposite of the earth, of the logos of the earth? What does divine marriage mean? We're talking about, for instance, and this is an very esoteric subject, we're going into, if you want, esoteric astrology, but the marriage between the logos of the earth and the logos of Mars, of human beings going to Mars, being sent to Mars for their further education, and some from Mars coming here. There's a marriage. See, Mars is masculine and Earth is feminine. And so you've got two siblings or male-female interrelationship on a cosmic scale. And so there's going to be a further bonding between these two planetary spheres to produce a child, so as to speak. Some of you may have seen images of two galaxies colliding, and some beautiful images in the cosmos, and that's male-female interrelating. The galaxy Andromeda is moving towards our particular galaxy. There's a cosmic attraction there, right? This is male-female. It has its vast correspondences all the way down to where we are here. And then you've got the laws of valency In chemistry, again, the male-female attraction, the positive and negative. It goes into what I can bring down, I suppose, in terms of the laws of electricity. In my esoteric cosmology, I speak about this also, that we live technically in an electrical universe. So this triplicity is, as you can see, inherent. But the triplicity produces ultimately one. The male-female merge into one. And then it's ultimately just Vada. Or the abstracted logos. Pralaya has ensued. While there's Manvantara, there's duality or triplicity. And when there's Pralaya, there's technically only unity, one. And then comes the Madhvada, hermaphrodite, the separation of the sexes, as it's called in the Bible. You know, it's like in the Bible, you get, if you've read Genesis, you get that Eve was born out of the rib of Adam. So what does that mean? And Adam and Eve were naked in the garden and not aware of their sexuality, right? Not aware of sin. And then Eve went and ate the forbidden fruit, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then gave it to Adam. And then they could see each other naked, and they recognized that they were different sexes. And then they were cast into coats of skin. Not a coat of skin, but coats, meaning the principles, these shapes, the planes of perception that we all embody into. So this particular philosophy is vast, and that's explained in my Secret Doctrine book. That's what that's all about. These books of mine, The Secret Doctrine and Esoteric Cosmology, they're difficult to read if you wish, but they're incredibly informative if you want to know about cosmos and how it comes into being and all the associated philosophy.